Okay, so this is going to be a demonstration on doing gua sha on a patient. The first thing you want to make sure is that they're comfortable, in a comfortable position. If you're doing the upper body, I prefer to have them being sitting up. You can have them lying down if you want. It's really up to whatever's easiest for you to work and what's comfortable for the patient. So simply start with a little bit of massage cream or some kind of oil, and just gently apply that to the area you're going to be working. Right now I'm going to be working on the lower neck and the upper back. There we go. And a little bit more down here. So there's several tools you can use. There is the traditional antelope horn. There is a porcelain Chinese soup spoon. The porcelain is a lot more comfortable than the plastic soup spoon because it has a much softer, more rounded edge. You can also use a tool that's been fashioned out of jade. I like the curved ones. You can use the convex portion to get more deeper into the muscles. You can even use the more pointed aspect to get deeper into the muscles. There's a little beveled part in many of them, which you can use over the spinal cord, over the vertebrae, okay? And you can also use the concave portion over curved muscles such as the trapezius and the lower neck. Right. So go ahead and let me know if anything is uncomfortable. If you have had enough, if you reached your limit, just let me know. If it's too much pressure, just let me know. So if you're doing the upper neck, right, and going up into the occiput, it's best to move upwards. Once you're down into around C3, C4 level, then you can start to go down. I'm going to start right here at about C6, C5. And I'm using a fair amount of pressure. And you can start to see a little bit of redness come up. How's that pressure?
Okay.
And I'm going over a single area about 30 to 40 times. And that will let me know if there's sha or not. Now, if you already know that the area is uncomfortable or sore or painful, one of the things you can do is you can press down with your thumb or your finger and look at how quickly the circulation restores to that area. Look at how quickly the regular tone of the skin returns. This return is a little bit on the slower side, not very slow, but a little bit on the slow side, which lets me know that the rate of refill and return is a little bit slower, and therefore that's an indication that there potentially could be sha here. All right, so just going over this area with a medium pressure. Strokes are about 4 to 5 inches in length. And I like to go over an area completely and then move on to another area. I don't like to go down and then back up and then down and get back up. This really requires a more consistent effort. And again, if it's too much, you can always use the more concave portion to go over the muscle here and over the top of the scapula. How's that pressure? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Using the more convex portion to get into this muscle here, the upper traps, the erector spinae. I don't like to go directly over the vertebrae. That can be uncomfortable for the patient. So I'm going over this area here. If your arm gets tired, you can switch. I like to have one hand on the patient, stabilizing them, so I'm not just pushing them around. It helps to ground me. It helps to connect with the patient more. It helps me to feel what's going on with the patient, if they're tensing up, if they're stiffening, because some people are relatively stoic. So you want to make sure that you're not doing too much, because some people don't want to speak up. All right. Okay, so I'm going to bring the camera in for a little bit of a closer look so you can see the sha that's starting to develop here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And so once it gets to this portion, excuse me, this degree of Sha, you don't want to keep going over it and over it and over it. You can move on to the next area. So you generally want to go from the top down and from the medial lateral. Okay, so if you want to get the top of the trap, you can go up over this area of Sha here, about 30 to 40 strokes. Again, stabilizing the patient. And some Sha starting to come up. So again, this is what the Sha is going to look like at about the time when you want to move on to a different section. All right, and you just continue downwards. Strokes 3 to 4 to maybe 5 inches at the most. Medium pressure. Again, that pressure can be adjusted depending on the muscle tone and the physique of the patient. If you're working with someone who's elderly or whose skin is very thin, or somebody who's relatively deficient and very skinny, you don't want to apply a lot of pressure. You can look at a patient's hands and arms to see if there's been any localized bruising or extravasation. People run into things, or maybe they're on like some sort of a blood thinner. You may notice some blood bruises. So in someone like that, I wouldn't even gua sha at all. But for most people, it's fine. And so as you can see, there's some Sha developing right here. And so I would work on that area till about this degree of Sha. Like I said, you want to work from the top down or from the medial laterally. One of the things you want to look at is the grain of the muscle. You don't want to go against that grain. So if the grain of the muscle is going this way, you want to go this way. If the grain of the muscle is going this way, then you go that way, according to the grain of the muscle. So at this part right here, the grain is moving a little bit this way. And so that's the direction I want to go. Now, obviously, here's the scapular spine and here's the medial edge of the scapula. You want to be very careful when you're going over these bony prominences, because that's going to be a place where there's going to be a lot more friction compared to the muscle. So this is where I kind of lift my hand a little bit up and curve it over the area to make it a little bit more comfortable for the patient. Make sure that you keep breathing. Make sure that your belly is loose. Make sure that you're grounded. And make sure that you're tuned in with the patient. You don't want to get so lost in your work that you forget to check in with how the patient is doing. Again, you want to go in one direction only. You won't want to go out and then back up, or down and then back up. Really just one direction of pressure and gua. And so you can see along here and along here and along here, Sha is starting to come up. And what then I would do is go to the other side and work on the other side to an equal degree, and noting if there's a difference in Sha or not from one side to the other.